Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. And it is, the fixtures of the festive fixture season. They're coming thick and fast. We don't have enough episodes to cover everything. So here we go. Another cram session. We did a great cram session on Boxing Day to cover, basically the game pre-Christmas, then covering the games coming up into the new year. And now we're into new year 2026. We have Palace to cover. We have Liverpool coming in 2 days. I don't know what day of the week it is. I don't know where I am right now, but all I know is that I am in great company. I am joined today by Elton. How are we doing, Elton?
Great, thanks. Good to see you, Skibby. I can't remember the last time
It's been a while.
we shared a microphone or a screen or something. Good to be here. Kind of like we were talking before we went on. I have utterly no idea what day it is, but that's probably a good thing. But happy to be here.
Absolutely. They come thick and fast. We don't know what day it is. To be honest, even with the time zone, I don't even know what time it is where you are. I don't know what time it is here. All I know is I'm here, I'm existing, and that's all we can ask for.
But the really great thing is you can still put it on your timesheet.
Exactly. Less we talk about that, the better. We're also joined. We are also joined.
You don't want evidence that. Jesus.
Sammy. We move swiftly on to Sammy. How are we doing, Sammy?
What's happening, player? I'm still so hungover from New Year's. I'm just going to address that elephant in the room. I am scattered to within an inch of my life. Yesterday, I had that great moment where, you know how like when you're like hungover and then you just think, oh my God, is this actually the rest of my life? Like what a terrible decision I've made. And now I'm going to just be decrepit and dehydrated and just overwhelmed. But no, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's talking to my Fulham best friend and my dad, and I'm excited for everything that this year has to come. I'm excited to discuss this with you. As you can tell by my cadence, it's going to be riveting from end to end. And I'm going to be real. I'm already a bit tired doing this intro.
No, it's great to have you here. And, I'm glad you took time out of your busy drinking schedule to be here. So that's always good. But no, first and foremost, I think we always shout out the Discord. Join the Discord. It's really interesting. But I think another aspect is the people who did join the Discord. Happy New Year. We started that Discord. It must be, I can't remember now. It must be about 2 years now. But everyone who has joined and made that place a really safe community, everyone who comes in has said it is way better than other said Fulham platform. Oh, it's way less toxic than other said Fulham platform.
Get it?
And I mean, they're the best kind of feedback you can get. And basically, if you don't want to take my word for it, join, see what it's like. But Happy New Year. So we're going to go straight in. We're going to go Steve and Emma. Happy New Year. Thank you very much for joining. And David Paul, thank you very much for joining. Happy New Year. We are here, 2026. Fulham are unbeaten in this year. Fantastic news. But we did have a game. We did have Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park, which, it's a bit of a weird one, given our kind of history with Palace, especially with their history under Glasner. They've been really strong and quite far up the table. I think they were even pushing Champions League at one point, but they seem to have dropped off a little bit. And obviously, this is a real kind of tough time for Fulham with, the AFCON boys being away doing their bits for Nigeria. We've got Sessegnon out. Muniz has been out for a long time. We're kind of at the bare bones of our squad, and the fixtures, as I mentioned, are coming really thick and fast. And Palace away at Selhurst Park seems to be a bit of a banana skin, as I mentioned. So, I mean, Elton, coming into this game, we knew that Marco wouldn't make any changes. I think that was also tried and true. And I think there was a few players there that had a kind of a bit to prove. They needed to pull up their socks a little bit and start putting in a bit more of a performance. But what was your sort of take on your sort of preview of the game and how the lineup that came out as we expected would sort of try and tackle this Crystal Palace team?
Well, the cupboard's a bit bare. Let's be honest. You know, Afcon. I know it affects everyone, but I think it affects us quite significantly. 3 pretty key players for us, and we just started to hit a bit of form after a really shitty, messy start to the season. And it was kind of a bad time to lose some key players. But I suppose on the flip side, it's an opportunity for other people to stand up and kind of cement their case for being starters. I know there's a kind of a pet peeve in there for you on the left wing, for someone who probably has an opportunity. And maybe the jury's out as to whether he's actually achieved that yet. But I just don't know that there were realistically that many options for conservative Marco Silva to really make. So no surprises for me. I feel sorry for Raul Jimenez. He, I don't know. He probably has like an ice bath 3 times a day at the moment. He probably lives down the local masseuse. But yeah, difficult fixture as always. And I was kind of hopeful of 3 points because Palace have been struggling a bit lately as well. And I know that's endlessly hopeful because we have a terrible record at Sellers Park in recent years. But I just thought we might be able to nick something. And to be fair, if I look back across the 90 plus minutes, we had plenty of chances.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned the lad on the left wing, Kevin. I think we were alluding to of his last few performances have been less than inspiring. I think, and it really does seem that the jury is out on Kevin, unfortunately, with fans on social media or within our own Discord sort of saying, is he really living up to the hype? It was an expensive signing. We're kind of expecting, and I think this is the Fulham of old, we were expecting a signing of 35 plus million to really hit the ground running. And unfortunately, he hasn't really done that and shown sort of glimpses. I think against Leeds was probably his best moments, but then since then it's just looked really kind of lackluster, not really indecisive. But I think if a fit Josh King was available, then there would be no question from me that Kevin shouldn't have started this game. Unfortunately, Josh picked up a knock just before, I think the day before in training, and ruled him out for the game. Therefore, I think Kevin was given a bit of a lease of life. And I think, Sammy, can I come to you now? Do you think that spurred on his performance a little bit? Do you think Marco was in Kevin's ear a little bit saying, if this didn't happen, you would have been dropped. Therefore, we're going to need to see something a bit more from you today, and potentially lit that fire under him that we did see a little bit more in that in that first half or even the whole game?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, it's hard to know what happens behind closed doors. I think outside of like private conversations, I think it's pretty evident that everyone's been given a bit of an opportunity to step up. I mean, we've seen it in Cuenca, and Harrison Reed got an opportunity, and obviously so did Cairney as well. So it's actually a really nice kind of like moment for everybody to actually prove themselves, and Kevin included in that, and to actually kind of step up to the plate a little bit, and then also know that they do have a couple of weeks to actually remind Silva that they're still there. I think I'm actually quite happy. I know it's a bit of a controversial take, but I'm actually quite happy about what's kind of happening at the moment, just with some of the guys that we've kind of like put on like the back burner a little bit to actually come in with a little bit of hunger. I think that we really, really need that. I'm not saying there's complacency in the squad, but there's definitely a more regimented style of management from Silva, and particularly his selection. That's not new news. So I think this is actually quite good because I didn't actually know where the energy was going to be coming from throughout the season. And I've already forgot what I was talking about.
Yeah.
just went around a little bit there.
Yeah.
So this is where a good host would be able to rein it in, but I don't know how
No,
to
you
bring
just
that
let me-
back in.
you just let me cook. Yeah.
Let me go. I think you asked a question about Kevin. I'll talk about
I think
Kevin.
I did. Go ahead.
I have a funny take on Kevin. I think I'm in the Dave camp on Kevin. Look, to be brutal here, record signing. We paid a lot of money in the context of Fulham. Maybe we don't understand football inflation at Fulham, and we don't really realise what 22-year-olds with a bit of promise cost, and maybe we expect something 3 times better. But let's be really brutal about it. The quality hasn't been good. It just hasn't been good. I really like the guy. I cannot fault his effort. I think he tries really hard, possibly tries a bit too hard, knowing the pressures on him a bit at the moment. Even in defence, he does try and track back. He does try and win the ball. Some of his decision making once he gets the ball in defence is a bit scary. And but then again, and I don't know whether that's a reasonable comparison, but seasoned pros like Timothy Castagna and Jedi did a couple of really questionable things in defence yesterday. And I'm not even talking about missing a tackle. I'm talking about squaring a ball across the face of goal, like terrifying. I'm thinking, what is going on? But back to Kevin for what we're looking for. I want to be a believer. And I know that's in sharp contrast to the shit I was giving ESR for a really long time because I thought he was just not only not only
bullying works.
Yeah,
that's the takeaway. Bullying works.
Yeah. Bullying works. Yeah, don't have feelings. But I still, even though it's a really raw product, and I thought it was just a little bit of a problem adapting. But I think there might be a bit of a quality problem there. But I think there's he's a bit of a rough diamond, but there's no doubt that there's something there. And I still think if you look at one area that we've really struggled, even against really poor teams way below us on the points table, we couldn't break them down.
Yeah.
If they sat back, we couldn't break them down. He breaks that shit up because he does run at defenders. His final ball is, I wouldn't say it's all terrible. It's just a bit unreliable. He occasionally puts in some really good balls, but it's a bit unreliable. And it's not like he's one-footed either, because he's actually got a left foot. He's shown that a few times. So I still want to believe that there's something there. And even in the interim, while it's developing, I still think he does provide a function of some chaos. Defenders are scared of guys like that.
Also,
I mean, Chukwueze actually does it with quality, right? And he's truly to be terrified by, because he actually will hang on to the ball all the way through the traffic, come out the other end, and actually lay off 8 times out of 10 a pretty dangerous pass. Whereas Kevin, it's a bit erratic.
I like erratic though. You can't prepare for erratic. Like, you kind of need erratic. I mean, that's
Well,
I
I think additionally to that, I think what I saw against kind of West Ham and Forest was, I know he won the penalty, but it wasn't really like a convincing, like, beat his man, got chopped down. It was more of a lost the ball, managed to get a toe on it just before somebody made a stupid challenge and took him out. But it wasn't convincing. And I think against West Ham, this was a really low confidence side who were there for the taking. And I just thought that Kevin's work rate was not up to par, if that makes sense. So I think on that, on the left-hand side, he had basically Jedi behind him, but he had Bowen, who is naturally a right winger, playing sort of through the middle, but was gravitating to that side. I think Paqueta was on that side as well. And he just wasn't getting back. He just wasn't winning the ball or doing his normal work rate. And I just thought, this kid he's officially cracked. He's not. He's been thinking that I've been working really hard. I haven't got anything to show for it. Then therefore my confidence is now even lower. And he just seemed to be strolling about. And then Josh King came on, played an absolute blinder, such good work rate, and just was an absolute terror to West Ham. And then it just really picked up. That's why I thought that we'd see more Josh King than Kevin going into this game. Unfortunately for the injury, but. Yeah, it's interesting. But like I said, it was a good performance from Kevin. And it was a lot more of what we wanted to see, which was beat your man, get that ball in the box. And he did that a few times. I think there was one to sort of ESR, sort of free in the box and managed to, didn't quite get to steer on it. But again, falls to Kenny Tete and he sort of blazes it over. But that was something more that we wanted to see. Go ahead, Sam.
I do think in defense of Kevin a little bit. I'm shining a bit of a light on Silva here, and I think we do need to highlight that Silva is terrible at introducing new players into the squad in what I think in an effective way. Because I'm kind of in the camp of just throw him in there and just let it kind of like sit and let it kind of like marinate, as opposed to like slowly kind of like build them in, because then that just builds frustration. And I think for guys like Kevin, they need to be 100% backed from the start. Otherwise they will kind of fall into patterns of overthinking and reevaluating what they're doing. And you need players like him to play with belief. And I think it's hard when your manager, for right or wrong reasons, doesn't necessarily have that initial belief in you. It kind of starts making you question things, start actually questioning your worth, whether you are actually worth the amount that's been paid. Pressure seeps in. I think with guys like Kevin, they need to be in a position where, if anything, they're thinking less about what they're supposed to be doing and actually doing more. And
but I think Sam, to be fair, I don't think Kevin could have a complaint about how many opportunities he's been given. I actually think he's been given quite a lot of time. And I think we, Marco and Kevin, are fortunate that with a whole bunch of injuries and AFCON, Marco's been able to give him possibly more time than his form deserves. And I think that's a good thing, because it's not terrible. It's just below expectation at the moment. I mean, if you compare him to Adama output, I'd much rather have Kevin on than Adama. And I'll fight you on that, because Adama's end product is pretty ordinary most of the time, but I still think Kevin offers more. Our expectation is much higher. That's the problem. And it's a price tag issue.
But if our expectation is too high, I think that's a problem that we need to actually look back at ourselves. I want to give him time. I want to give him time to actually develop.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Because it takes like, it's a once in like maybe like every like 10 years you'll get a player like Polina like come through and immediately make an impact and immediately be everything that we've ever wanted, whether we knew it or not. I think it's a little bit unfair to like only judge him so early in the game, when really for the first couple of weeks
he's really young.
Yeah, and he's adjusting to like Prem life. Like it's like, because he's coming from a completely different league. When like it's very, very hard for me to kind of like get the pitchforks out for him. Maybe that's just me being devil's advocate. But that's just how I feel.
He looks a good kid, and you just hope that he's a fast learner, and that he actually doesn't have a massive ego, and he's not too fragile, so he can take the feedback on, and he actually can develop. Because I really think he could be something. I think, and we may be maybe in a matter of weeks and months be thinking, yep, worth every penny of that.
Yeah, for sure. No, and like I said, we saw some better directness yesterday, so hopefully that continues and he does start to grow. I mean, bringing it back to the game, then. I mean, the first half it was a bit nitty gritty, not really some clear chances, but the real kind of talking point of the first half sort of came around sort of the 40th minute when Cuenca. Well, I'd be interested to see what your take is, but so Cuenca takes a soft hand to the face. He goes down, clutching his face. The ref then stops the game, calls immediate attention because it's a head injury. He says he doesn't need the attention, but he has to go off the pitch anyway because the ref has called on to play, or the medical staff. Sorry. From said situation, a ball is put into the box. No one seems to be marking Mateta. I don't understand how that can happen. And he nods it home. And I guess, Sammy, coming to you, your thoughts on that kind of passage of play from a Fulham perspective and potentially even from a footballing fan perspective?
Okay, it's really hard because Cuenca for me had such a great game last week, and I actually really like him as a player. I've kind of been a Cuenca convert in this time period because I really like what he adds to the squad, and I think in the future he's going to be a really serious player for us. I wholeheartedly believe that. I actually really rate him. With that all being said, now this is an interesting one because it's like, was he a little bit too confident off the back of like his performance against West Ham, and he was wanting to try new things? Because really he was trying to kind of like get away with some shithousery, in my opinion, and it did not work, and he got slapped he got bitch slapped by karma. And it's obviously really poor disorganization, resetting. But he really did walk into that, and I'm not sure if it's kind of like he needed a little bit more tact, he needed a little bit more precision, but clearly he tried something in that, and that did not pay off for him. Bless his little cotton socks. I don't want to say that he's like a complete idiot, because I think his brain was in the right space. He's like, right, I'm a bit more cemented now in the squad. I can try some stuff. I can try to like pull off some stuff. And I could see what he was going for. He was trying to get a foul there, but it just did not work for him. And bless him, like, I think he was lucky to actually not get a red, because he was doing some pretty what's the word, audacious things for a lot of the game. And I think it really like highlighted his lack of like maturity, and maybe what's the word, if we think of like somebody like Josh King makes excellent decisions all the time. Like, he's kind of like wise beyond his years. I think Cuenca showed that he's a really great player, but he still doesn't necessarily have that tact yet. And I'm not going to crucify him for it, because I don't think that that's constructive and helpful. But I think he tried to cheat and he got caught out. And this is a good learning curve for him. I wish it didn't come at the expense of a goal, but I believe that he's smart enough to know that I am not probably going to try this again next week.
And I guess bringing it to you, Elton, I guess I think it's roughly 20 minutes before that, Cuenca gets booked for something that he feels was similar. I mean, your take, was it similar, or was that just kind of a low footballing IQ moment where he was never going to get a foul for it?
I think Cuenca is a potential real star, and I think I think he actually performed really well yesterday, other than that unfortunate error. He's a young kid. Think about it. He's actually not played that much, that many Premier League minutes. He's only really strung a couple of starts together, and he's done really well. I always comment on how incredibly well he seems to just drop into the side. He won't feature for weeks and weeks and weeks, and he'll just drop in and look completely like he belongs.
Mm.
And I love his confidence on the ball. What he did yesterday was silly. It was really poor judgment, and I think I don't think he'll ever do that again. And I think that's it. Every young kid, every young teenager, is allowed to make some stupid mistakes. You just hope they aren't too costly. Um, but um, it was a kind of it was a sort of a perfect storm in a way, because yes, he completely messed up. He misjudged that. If you're up in the final third, you happen to be up there, you know, pretending to be a wing back. Great, go down.
Yeah.
But not in the position that you're in, where frankly a long throw from there could have been dangerous, right?
Mm.
And you're just giving them a free hit. Robinson doesn't help, because we're all gonna sort of piece our way back to the Cuenca mistake that ends up in a goal. Well, his absence from the field is definitely a problem as to why Mateta looks like he's got all the space in the world, because we're missing a centre back who would normally be a key man in the 6-yard box. Anderson's probably feeling like he's got to cover here, there, and everywhere. So it's him missing when that ball comes in is definitely a problem. But that the passage of play leading up to that could have happened in any phase of the game where Robinson gets completely done and the ball comes in. Now, you could argue if we had two centre backs, maybe we would have defended that better. So there's a whole bunch of things happening there. But I look, it's really unfortunate that it kind of is connected to the goal, and that's really unfortunate for him. But I think Silva would have boxed his ears and screamed at him, and it won't happen again.
He really looked
just
like a
won't
little
happen again.
boy. He really looked
I
like a
felt
little
sorry for him.
boy. Yeah, me
'Cause
too.
he
'Cause he
completely screwed it up.
He really looked like a little boy that like just messed up big time and was so kind of like confused
It's
about
really
how he got caught.
really inexperienced. He made,
Yeah.
I know everything's happening at light speed in the Premier League, and he's thinking he can get away with something there. Terrible decision. And unfortunately, like you say, you've got youngsters like Josh King, who is so mature. He'll cop a yellow and break down an attack. He'll actually do some really clever things and keep a very, very cool head. But I think he's a bit special, and it's probably unfair.
Yeah.
To compare everyone to someone as unnaturally talented and unnaturally mature for his age.
And I think additionally to your points, though, is in La Liga, where he's played most of his life, he gets a foul there every day of the week. He gets probably a booking for the attacker for raising his arm. It's just what he's known. It's just what he's used to. But this is the Premier League. You don't get little soft brushes into the face. And like you say, it's that football IQ of anywhere further up the pitch, you're fine. But the fact that the game has stopped, Palace can continue their attack when he's off the pitch, and just swing a ball in. And even the sort of the structure of the team seems to be okay, because we have Berger dropping into that left centre back position, and that's when you've got to that's where Anderson needs to be a captain and say, okay, Berger's in front of me on the near post. He hasn't got Mateta. Where's Mateta? Where is their biggest threat from this position? And he hasn't done that. He's left it to Tete almost, and just assumed that Tete is going to pick him up. Tete is assuming that the striker is going to be picked up by a centre-back, Anderson. So there just seems to be a massive miscommunication there.
Yeah, definitely.
It was just a really ugly goal to concede. And one that I didn't think Palace deserved, if I'm honest. I mean, they had a chance early on near post where Leno made a good save, but really nothing happened. But I think in continuing the sort of the first half, it really kind of came from sort of Kevin. I think he had a long shot which the keeper got caught out, parried, and Wilson almost turned it home. But I think Lacroix was a great block. But it was just unfortunate to go in at 1-0 down. But I mean, coming out second half, that's when, you want to think the Silvers lit a fire under them, said this game is here for the taking. Have a word with Cuenca, stop going down so easy, and you will learn from that. But, from the get-go, there seemed to be a bit more oomph about Fulham. I mean, it came down from Kevin from down that left-hand side, cut back, took, I think, 2 players out of the game. I think Klein and I forget who the winger was, but doubled up on him. He just cut the ball back to Jedi, who crossed it, and Raul hits the post with a really good header. You thought he was going to score there, just in the form that he's been in, but it just wasn't to be. But did you feel that coming back to you, Elton, did you feel that, that second half, there was a bit more about Fulham, and you thought that, 1, we needed to get back into this game, or 2, this game is here for the taking after that sort of Raul, I say miss, but he hit the post. It wasn't bad.
Actually, to go back to the first half, I actually thought the first 15, maybe 20 minutes, I thought we looked really, really good. We moved the ball around beautifully, really attractive football. I mean, great to watch. And we had, we had no trouble keeping the ball. One could argue, we probably still didn't execute and get ourselves into really dangerous positions, but you've still got to be able to have the ball and pass the ball around in order to build up and actually create anything dangerous. So I still think that we looked really, really good, and I thought Palace really struggled to get into the game in the first 15 minutes. It's a bit hard to be too hard on Raul at the moment, because I think with a guy who's running and having to pace himself the way he is at the moment, you never quite know how, whether he's got the intensity that he ought to have to finish things off, because he knows he's going to have to limp his way through 90 minutes. And so he's probably not. He's working hard, but he's not bursting out of the blocks like a Muniz does. Muniz always plays like he's only got 5 minutes.
He's 34 as well. Like in Premier League terms, that might as well be 76.
Yeah. So, but to answer your question, I thought we, I didn't feel like we were out of it, even though we went down 1 down. It's probably a bit of a stretch to say it was against the run of play, but I don't really think they deserved it. That was a very fortunate goal for them, because Leno had a little bit of a few things to do, but we were not under siege. They were not peppering our goal, and you're thinking, oh my God, it's just a matter of time before they put one in the back of the net. Didn't feel like that at all.
No,
we felt pretty comfortable, actually. There was no stress at all.
And then Sam, so we had the entrance of Tom Cairney. So I think another loose point, which is the midfield looked a bit disjointed. Lukic was missing. Berger, I thought, was better than Lukic, but not as impactful as he should be. But then we sacrificed Berger, brought on Tom Cairney to give us a bit of control within the midfield, move Lukic to that number 6. And he made a bit of an impact, didn't he?
Well, I legitimately got annoyed because I thought, why are we taking Berger off? Because in my opinion, Lukic was playing like shit. And I've really come to I'm almost getting to the point where I feel like I'm a little bit justified in being a Sasa Lukic hater. I've been an apologist for a long time, but he's been really irritating me lately. And I was a bit dumbfounded because I've actually been quite critical of like Cairney. I think he's as Mark would say, he's been a bit of a vibe signing this year because he hasn't really featured, bless him, because he hasn't really been up to like the same kind of like scratch as like the other guys, frankly. But I mean,
like, and I remember when it happened, I was kind of like, what? Like, I don't know why we're bringing on Cairney right now, like, especially for Berger, because like I feel like Berger's actually doing stuff.
I thought,
and then I was so wrong.
I thought he had an okay game. I thought he had an okay game, Berger.
Yeah,
I
me
thought
too.
so.
Yeah,
so I was
like,
made
why are we
himself
doing this?
available. He was actually quite good in defensive midfield. Just on the Lukic topic, I don't really want to dump on the guy, but geez, he's an untidy player.
I'll dump on him. He's shit. Like, he was making really poor decisions.
That's too much.
No, he was bumping. He was bumping into players. Like,
he's untidy. He's just untidy. He's more likely to foul. Look, I'm all for Steph Joe. I'm all for Steph Joe type shithousery, Polinia, the really tough in the tackle type guys who actually go. But Lukic doesn't really do that, and yet he's still kind of, and he's always got the double hands up like that. Like, look, wasn't me, boss. But yeah, kind of frustrating actually. Kind of frustrating.
He's very much like Bull in the China shop in like a really bad way. He's like Mr. Blob.
It's not a great season. It's not a great season for Sasa Lukic.
Do you know what he is?
I just want to add one more thing.
Yeah,
it's not the first time that Lukic has gone missing in a Fulham team. He did it when he was with Polinia. He then became the number 6, and he did quite well. And now he's sort of being pushed out to that number 8 again. He just doesn't work. He just doesn't fit the midfield, and he just goes missing in games. And it, like I said, it's not the first time.
I'm happy to sell him. I'm ready. I'm ready for us to switch.
Do you know what? I'm happy for him to take the Harrison Reed role. I'm happy for us to get a midfielder in, but we can have him on the bench, rough and ready, when we need to break up a game or and fit that role. But I just think, as a starting player, he's just not that guy. But you know what? It all comes down to stats, because Sasa Lukic got an assist this game.
I don't care about stats. Oh, that makes me curious.
Let me ask you a question here. At a certain stage in the game where we need something a little different, someone just to tidy things up, some fresh legs, would you rather have Harrison Reed? And I know most people go, oh, no, not Harrison Reed, he's done. Would you rather have Harrison Reed come on or Sasa Lukic? I think I'd rather have Harrison Reed.
Yeah, really? I don't want Mr. Blobby, who's just going around, just smashing shit for no apparent reason. He's either so quiet to the point where I forget.
Harrison Reed comes on.
He had a good game.
3 minutes later, he's popped a corner in, bloody dangerous, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he dropped straight into the game. And I know people have got many opinions about Harrison Reed, but I've got a lot of trouble with the chemistry of where Sasa Lukic fits in our midfield.
Yeah. Anyway,
if Iwobi's back, he doesn't start.
No.
Yeah, I want to go all the way back though, because I want to highlight Cairney, because I didn't get a chance to do that because I was so rudely cut off by Sasa Lukic as well. Sasa Lukic is finding his way to piss me off even when he's not even here. But Cairney comes on. And I've said a lot of things about Cairney because I know a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for this great man, but I look at him with a little bit more kind of realism, just being I'm not sure what he's getting, what he's giving. That's a cracking goal. That was such a good goal. It was so clean. It was just, talk about a first touch, talk about vision and IQ. And just the fact that he doesn't need to be running around. All he just needs is not that many seconds on the ball, and he can still do it. And oh my God, we needed that, because I did not know where the goal was going to come from. And the fact that he still has that does actually give him value. It's probably not enough to start. I recognize that, and maybe not enough to come off the bench all the time when Iwobi's back and stuff. But that was a good goal. That
Fantastic
popped me.
Strike.
I got out of my seat for that. I really, really did. Castagna's goal, Castagna's attempt made my soul leap out of my body. But Cairney's goal, that popped me in a really good way. I audibly gasped, actually. I just did a hard exhale And I was just very, very happy for that and it was really nice to see him celebrate on just like a sentimental point. Like he's still in the squad. I can't logically say that we should give him another contract. I know every Fulham fan would completely disagree with me on that. But he can still do it. He can still shoot, you know?
You can. I mean, Elton, have you got any points on that?
There's probably only one other player who can reliably do the sort of thing that Cairney could do from the edge of the, the box. And
Pele.
that's no, I was going to say Wilson. I trust Wilson in a similar sort of position. He's got the composure. He'll actually size it up and go around a man and bend it round a man. And I suspect Chukwueze possibly has that in his locker, actually. But we haven't seen it yet. And, of course, my favourite, Willian, could have always done that for us. But
always.
So great goal. And you have to ask yourself the question, if he can come on and score a goal, 1 in every 5 games like that, is that someone and if he can keep himself fit, is that someone who you do want around the squad? Maybe the answer is yes, if the wages are right.
Possibly. Well, we know Sasa Lukic isn't going to do it.
What an assist, though. What a pass. To the edge of the box. But no, you mentioned Harrison Reed, and I did want to talk about Harrison Reed because he was very key in probably one of the key moments of the second half. So he came on with 5 minutes to spare. I think either he picks it up or Cairney picks it up and plays it to Harrison Reed in that kind of right side of the pitch. And he swings in an early cross. And you talked about his corner taking, and he has got a bit of a whip on him. And he whips in an early cross, chested down quite well by Jimenez. He knocks it back to Cairney. There's a bit of a ricochet, and the ball falls to Timothy Castagna on his own from 6 yards out, and it's saved. I'm not sure how it's saved. But there are elements of he should score. If he puts it anywhere other than where he did, he scored the winning goal at Selhurst Park in a 2-1 win for Fulham to make it 4 in a row. But at the same time, I don't want to completely put it all on Castagna, because
absolutely
he hasn't hit it directly at the keeper. He hasn't hit it directly at Henderson. But Henderson has gambled. And I know that, I think in our chat, Dave said it was a nice height for a goalkeeper, but a nice height for a goalkeeper, but from 5 yards or whatever is point blank reactions. It's a good save. And I mean, it is a game saving save from a Palace perspective. But I mean, Elton, Castagna's got to do better.
Well, you got to ask yourself the question. I'd have to look at it again. Yeah, but that's what I was about to say. Please, Timothy, you're a defender. You're a right back. Why'd you have a go? And he actually tried to he hit it pretty well, but he sort of tried to place it. Imagine what he could have done with his right foot there. He would have got 30% more power and just created more chaos if he just got it waist high either side of Henderson and really smashed it. He'd be in with a better chance. But then again, look, he's found himself in a good position. He's not a striker. One might say he's a Premier League footballer. Everyone has to be able to score goals from that position. I actually think we're probably being I was very disappointed and I couldn't believe it, but I think we're being pretty harsh on him, because I do think Henderson did really well there.
I'm not being harsh on him. I think see it this way, like Anderson hoofed it like pretty shortly after that, and that was not the right move. Castagna went for conservative. It was on target, which is more than I can say for most of our players. And I think he actually made the right call, and it's a great save by Henderson, because talk about like quick reactions, and as Skibby said,
he's a good keeper. He's a good keeper.
Great keeper. I refuse to get mad at Castagna, because if Henderson like goes a slightly different direction, then that's a goal, and Castagna's done everything right. Oh my god, it was heartbreaking. That was
Well,
really heartbreaking for me.
Interesting point here beyond the goal. I think Castagna, he hasn't played a lot of minutes, but his form hasn't been great. Hasn't looked
No.
very good.
Mm.
And when he gets himself in the second half of the pitch, he really has looked completely at sea and clueless and really not knowing what to do. His positioning is really awful, and that's just not where you want him to be. And now I believe Kenny Tete's got an injury. I think he's got a hammy, which
He did,
means
yeah.
Castagna is now back in the right back position, which kind of worries me a bit, and also concerns me about the next few weeks against some really difficult opposition for our pairing at centre back with Anderson, who seems to come alive with Tete to his right, and it's always a little bit tricky with Castagna to his right. Doesn't work very well, so that's concerning for me.
I like the idea that Castagna isn't necessarily first choice for Liverpool and can step up to the plate. I mean, I think I don't like how Anderson has kind of become a player where it's kind of like he needs a perfect ecosystem to be like half decent. I'm not loving that quality about Anderson at the moment, but I do know exactly what you mean. I'm really, really hoping that because I like Castagna. I think he never sets the world alight, but he very rarely actually steps too far out of line. And I see him as a pretty consistent pair of hands. So I don't have the same anxiety that you have. I'm hoping that maybe if it was his third game, he could probably be a little bit complacent, but I think he's going to be quite switched on for Liverpool. And I will look at that optimistically.
Well, I think Castagna is far from terrible, but his form's not great. But I think he's a long way off the class of Kenny Tete. That's the point.
Okay, no, fair.
I mean, we had the same view when Tete was injured last season, but to be honest, he actually did pretty well, I think.
He did.
So I think giving him a bit of a run in the team is not a bad thing, and I don't think he's a bad fullback to have if Tete's unavailable. I mean, I think back to Stamford Bridge, instrumental in that final goal. Getting up the pitch, and I think he played it to Lukic, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember now, but I think so. Yeah, look,
it's hardly like the days when you saw Chalobah warming up, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And you just basically the real point here is in the 90th minute with 1-1 on the clock or 1-1 on the scoreboard, he's probably the last person on the pitch you want that chance to fall to. It's not the first time where he's found himself in that position and not scored. But hey, it was a good hit. But I mean, we touched upon the Anderson chance as well. Ball falls to him from a corner. He kind of takes a swing at it. Again, falls to anybody else, you're thinking it's on target or / goal. Falls to Anderson, written in the stars to score the winner against Palace after they were booing him for a fair amount of the game, but ballooned. Badly taken, Sammy, or you can't really blame him. It's just a bit of a spur of the moment kind of swing at the ball.
Yeah, it's high pressure, and I'd like to kind of like think of him as infinite grace under pressure, and that he can be the guy that we can trust in that kind of a scenario. But maybe that's just not necessarily him. That's okay. It's a blessing if you have a defender that can score great goals, i.e. somebody like Bassi. I can't necessarily ask that much of like a centre back. Yeah, it would have been great, but I can't get too mad at that, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm pretty neutral on it.
I think if that's comes to Anderson's head in the 6-yard box in traffic, I'd rate him to put that away. That I think he's got quite a lot of attacking prowess, but to feet, that's probably a little bit too much to expect for him to have the composure, because he actually had more time than he thought. He had a swing at that. He could have actually trapped that and easily put that away from that distance out. He could have easily put that away. But again, it's unfortunate that it didn't fall to one of our wingers or our striker or ESR, because I think you'd back them. You'd back them in that moment.
No, absolutely. I think you're quite right. Bang on the money. But no, you look at sort of the tail of the tape when you look at the stats. Fulham more possession, more shots on target. More passes. We dominated. We went to Selhurst Park. We went there with the Marco Silva way. Wasn't to be. But you know what? After 4 games, 3 of them away, given our recent away form, away to West Ham, Palace, and Burnley, to come away from sort of those 3 away games with 7 points.
Yeah,
I wouldn't really.
All right.
I'm happy with that. I was always under the impression of win at home, draw away, you'll be safe. But if we can turn those draws away into wins, then we'll probably break that top 10. It's just that looking for that consistency. But if you throw Forest in there, the last 4 games, it was 10 points. Can't go wrong. But we now go into a bit of a tricky period. Liverpool on Sunday, not ideal. But again, Liverpool aren't anything special at the moment. They just off the back of a 0-0 draw to Leeds, I believe it was. I might be wrong. I will just double check that, because I've got in my head where it was Leeds at Anfield, 0-0. We played Leeds, not a great team. They turned it around somehow in recent weeks, but at the same time, Liverpool seem to not be the same beast that they were last year. I mean, they've come off the back of wins against Wolves and Spurs, but again, so have we. That's nothing special, and especially a 2-1 with Wolves. I just think they're probably one of the worst teams that I've seen in the Premier League era, let alone this season. But there's an opportunity here with home form. Yes, we're missing the AFCON guys and potentially Tete adding to that list. Hopefully King is back, but there's got to be a reason for optimism, Elton. I mean, thinking about our recent form, how we're grinding out results.
We are definitely getting we're getting the job done quite remarkably, actually. If you think about this is the worst run of injuries, and it's just as soon as we seem to be getting over our serious injury problems, other people start getting injured. We've actually had a really quite unfortunate run for the start of this season. And you add to that, the Nigerian guys being away. We are far from being able to pick our best possible Fulham side. Far, far, far from it. And yet we're still getting results against sort of our peers, if you like. I think that gets harder when you come up against a Liverpool, even though they're not doing, they're not last year's Liverpool or Liverpool of the last 2 or 3 years, to be fair. But it's still going to be very, very difficult. Yeah, they've got individual quality around they always seem to score 2 or 3 worldies against us, even if they're not playing that well. And that's what happens when you play against, crazily good individuals. So look, it's never going to be easy. You could never bank points against Liverpool, even when their form isn't that good. notwithstanding the fact that we're at home. But I just think we just need to somehow keep gutsing it out and just picking up scrounging points until these AFCON guys get back and we get a little bit of relief. I'm sure Josh King isn't a serious one, but Tete, that's surely going to be a number of weeks before he's back. Mooney's long time before he's back. So it's problematic. It's a tough season. We're actually points wise we're doing okay, but this is a really tough season.
Yeah, I kind of just want to. I just want to get to the end of it. It's so annoying because this is like a perfect game for like Muniz to like come in, really, really assert, and like I think this is like Liverpool's a game that requires like a certain level of tenacity. I think back to like a couple of years ago when it was all doom and gloom, and then we played them, and Mitrovic just had like a stormer just because he was so aggressive with them, and you kind of need to bully Liverpool because again they're such good individuals. So the only thing that you can really bring is brute in an effective way, not in a Sasa Lukic way. And I worry. No, I'm throwing shade. I don't give a fuck. I worry that Jimenez, through no fault of his own, bless him, he probably just doesn't have the energy to really kind of throw down in a game like that, and so it's gonna have to come from, I mean, potentially people like Harry Wilson. Again, I don't really see him as that kind of like player. Or maybe even ESR. Again, I don't really see him with that tenacity. Josh King could definitely throw it down. And as I said before, Muniz, this is the perfect game for him. I think we'd still potentially be in it. We've done something like this before. Oh, it's a really hard one to call because I want to err on the side of optimism. And fortunately, usually when I'm a little bit nihilistic, we actually do a little bit better. So maybe this is just like a self-preservation thing. I don't know. I don't know where we pull it out from. But I think it would be a good game. I think that's all you can really hope for a lot of the time, is that we go in really, really looking for a bit of a shit fight. And I hope that's what we do.
We generally do. We
generally do. Yeah.
Teams.
Yeah. It's just really hard to see it before it happens. That's the hard part. It's hard to visualize. I can manifest, but I can't visualize it just yet.
Well, you're gonna have to visualize because I'm gonna ask you for a prediction. We'll start with Elton.
I am gonna say we lose 2-1.
Sam.
I am going to say, do you know what? I'm going to say something crazy. I'm going to say all my fears. All my fears are completely set aside, and something miraculous happens, and everything finally clicks for like Josh King. And he comes through as the shining light he's supposed to be.
Time to score.
Oh my God, is it ever? I actually feel really sorry for him because I feel like he's been denied like 3 goals or something like that. Bless his little cotton socks. I'm going to say 2-0. I'm going to say 2-0 Fulham, and I'm going to lead with optimism on this.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know if I have that level of optimism, but I think we might get a draw. I think a 1-1 draw speaks to me. I just think that, when you look at the sort of stats of the recent games of Liverpool, they do pepper the goal. They do have a lot of, it's just turning those shots into goals is where they're struggling. So whether that's valiant defending, great goalkeeping, who knows? But I just think 1-1 speaks to me.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I would every day of the week. But yeah, as it goes, we got a couple of, we had a question in the Discord before we went live, and it's really, I think we've only got time for one, if I'm honest, because it's such a big one.
Thank God we've only got time for one, because there was only one question.
Well, no.
Lucky you.
But it is quite a big one because obviously, if you've been following Fulham transfer, whether it's been our Discord where he's very active, and given it's January, he's come out of his hole and he's ready to roll with all the rumors that are coming in. But whether you follow them on X as well, you know that there's been some talk about Raheem Sterling again. And there's definite contact between Fulham and Chelsea around it, and potentially being that Adama replacement as he goes off to West Ham. But the question is, why are we looking at a player like Sterling? I think that's the fundamental player. The board want a younger squad, something with resale, but we're now looking at potentially a 31-year-old Sterling. So I guess it's a two-parter, really. One, why are we looking at him? And two, what are your thoughts if the transfer comes off? We'll come to you, Elton.
Just refresh my memory. Are we believing in a loan here, or?
Well, it's very conflicting. Even this morning, I've seen that he's rejected a 6-month loan move to West Ham. Chelsea want him gone. There's going to be I think there's going to be some real kind of maneuvering and a bit of creative license around the deal, that it's going to be a potentially permanent or a loan with unconditional obligation, or a permanent move where Chelsea are basically making him a free agent. There's some kind of creativity around that. So think of it as a loan first of all, but there is the possibility of it being a permanent deal.
Sounds to me like a deferred purchase.
Basically.
Yeah. It's a wages thing for me because from what I understand, his wages are crazy, right?
325.
Absolutely interstellar.
That's
So we
nuts.
can't possibly be considering that.
No.
And so, the absolute ceiling would have to be somewhere around 100 to compete with some of the other guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he worth 100? If he can score, he's got to score 5 goals, 7 goals, and maybe have a half a dozen assists to kind of warrant that kind of money. Notwithstanding the fact that he has no future value, I have no idea what we anticipate paying for him, albeit deferred. But geez, I wouldn't want to pay. I'd take him for 20 million and 50 grand a week.
Which should never happen. Okay, hear me out on this. Dad already knows about this, but I'm on this really great book at the moment. It's called The Psychology of Money. Hear me out. And what they actually do is they break down a lot that the main difference there is no difference between the concept of luck and the concept of risk. And in order to make money, you essentially have to play a high risk, high reward kind of scenario. And usually with things like investing and stuff like that. And if it pays off very, very well, it's called luck, and you're rewarded for it. People say, oh, that was lucky. And if it doesn't pay off well, it's called risk. In the case of Sterling, it is a really, really low risk signing with really, really high wages. I would much rather go for something high risk, because we know exactly what Sterling's going to be, and it's going to financially cost us. I would rather invest that money that we would potentially be looking into something that is potentially we're going to say in 5 years' time what a lucky purchase that was. And I hate the fact that the Khans will always never do a risk signing, for lack of a better word. And I just think that that's a better use of everyone's time, money, and energy than to look at a player that, even if we do sign him, I don't necessarily think he would be the Sterling of old. And conversations like this irritate me.
The only one that I can think of that was actually worth it was Willian, and from memory, I'm pretty sure Willian even came to us as a free agent. You know,
Which he did. Mhm.
yeah. So
I mean, Sterling on a free and 50 grand a week.
that's chill.
Get
That's
in.
whatever.
Get
Yeah,
in.
but I'm not paying money for him. No, go away.
I mean, I think that's where my mindset is. I think we're getting a player of a similar caliber of Willian, I would say, but we're getting him 3 years younger than when we signed Willian. We're getting a player who has won it all. We're getting a player who's been in the big games, got that winning mentality. And I think that is probably good to have just in the dressing room, if I'm not mistaken. It's like just to have him around the team and to be a bit more of a mentor to certain players, I think is worth the money. That I'm not saying that we're going to pay him 300 grand a week. I mean, I think we pay a ceiling of 120. He gets a severance package from Chelsea, which basically pays him that 8 million that he's owed over the next 2 years. So he's happy anyway. He gets to play, so he's a win. But I think with Chelsea, they've just really shot themselves in the foot by their stance with him, dismissing him, because they've got no negotiation power, because we can just let him rot. And we don't need to take him. We're doing them a favor, if anything. But I think for me, and I had this chat with Mike at the West Ham game, sort of Mike the Traveller, if you're not aware of who I'm mentioning, but I think that despite his reputation, I think he would be good for Kevin. I think to be in the same team, to learn from and play with, because I think Raheem can play on the right as well, but to play with someone who is almost a bit like Kevin, erratic, quick, but no real end product. But to actually learn from him because I remember watching Sterling for City of beating his man, getting to the byline, looking for a cutback or scoring. Everyone will call him a back post merchant, but I think he was more than that. And for me, I think to be in training and sort of say, well, Kevin, just take him to one side and just be like, well, when you got to this point, this is where it all completely went wrong for you. And just say, and to be able to share his experience of being at the top level he was, I think it would be good for Kevin. It would be good for any kind of young wingers at the club. And I just think that if we can make it as low risk as possible, which is, that 6-month loan, but if he scores 4 goals in that 6 months, then it trigger a full-time contract for the next 2 years or something. I think that would be something beneficial. I think there's personally still a player there. I think he's been poorly treated at Chelsea. I think even when he was on loan at Arsenal, he wasn't the finished product. He was still in a team that was fighting for the title, and he still got game time. So I think he would still thrive at a team like Fulham under a manager like Silva, who puts a lot of trust into sort of senior players. And as an Adama replacement goes, I think we could do a lot worse. But can we do better, given the sort of the market that there is in January? Probably not. And I just think that if we can make it as low risk as possible, it would be a very, very good signing for us.
So Dave, you've mentioned the wage cap that you'd like to see on someone like Sterling. How much would you actually pay for him?
As in a fee?
Yeah.
10 million.
Yeah.
But that's because for the way that I see it, that Chelsea have showed their hand, that they don't rate him. They don't have any negotiation power. But at the same time, if they are going to give Sterling a severance package, because fundamentally, Chelsea just want him gone. So if Fulham put in 8 to 10 million to say, here's the fee, that's what you can give Sterling for your severance package, we'd near enough get him for peanuts. But Chelsea then are seeing it as a good deal because they're not out of pocket by paying the rest of his wages. That's my mindset. But I wouldn't pay any more than 10 million for him.
But I mean, who's going to pay anywhere near his wage expectation. So
No
it all
one.
comes down to no one, right?
Hence
Unless
why he's
he-
still at Chelsea and been
or
sitting with the under
he
21s
goes-
for 6
or
months.
he goes to Saudi or something like that.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to leave London. That's the main thing. Is it keeps echoing that he doesn't want to leave London. So it basically reduces it to Arsenal, Fulham, Palace, and West Ham. Spurs potentially, but again, would he go to Spurs? Probably not.
He's like I don't know like Sterling intimately, shocking as that may be, but he does we're speaking about him in a lot of like ifs and him potentially being a mentor figure for some other players. Truth be told, for everything I've seen about Sterling, I don't really think that that's his energy. And I'd love the idea that he could be like a Willian kind of person, because Willian was so great with like other Brazilians that are coming into the squad. And he really was like a kind of like figurehead for them. He was like their uncle. Whereas like I feel that Sterling kind of has more of like Adama kind of energy, like a bit reclusive, and maybe keeps to himself. I've always seen him to have like a little bit of like an ego, and maybe that's a bit out of turn.
Yeah,
so
I think that's true, Sam. It's potentially true.
I'm just kind of like, yeah, we can talk about somebody that we're bringing in that has class and has that mentality, but I think we're also potentially bringing in somebody who has a massive ego, and that could potentially do a little bit more damage in already a kind of a fragile ecosystem.
I wonder if he's been given
one major benefit. One major benefit. He could teach Cuenca how to go down.
He could. That's a very good point. It's a very good point.
How's a meal go?
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong, but hey, we'll watch this space.
10 million
though.
though
happens.
Yeah.
I think 10 million is peanuts with this day and age for a player like that.
No, that is true. It is true.
I'd pay that, but no. Listen, we're coming up to, well, we've gone over a little bit, but hey ho, we'll allow it. But no, that was kind of all I wanted to talk about today. If there's anything else from you guys,
no, I'm done.
Very good. Do you know what? I'm going to leave us on a very, very funny note. I've just seen breaking news that Harvey Elliott, if you don't know, is currently on loan at Aston Villa. They don't want to play him because they don't want to sign him. Therefore, he's in limbo, but he can't go anywhere else. Well, within the Premier League or Europe, I think, because he's played for 2 clubs already, Liverpool and Aston Villa. Therefore, he's been offered the chance to go to Charlotte FC in the MLS. Enjoy that. Enjoy the MLS, Harvey Elliott. That's all you deserve, mate. But no, Elton, Sam, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon/evening.
Thanks, absolute pleasure. Great to talk to you, Skib and Sam. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes, absolutely. Happy New Year. Hopefully we keep the momentum going with a positive result/performance on Sunday against Liverpool. But yeah, that kind of leaves me just for Sam. I think you pumping your fist with your finger guns in the air. You just wanted to see us out. So thank you very much, Sam.
With the laziest one. That was even the laziest fist pump I think I've done. But anyway, Happy New Year, everybody, and come on, you whites.